Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, I'm going to do a video today that isn't about role-playing games, and it's not about bass guitars, but it can be applicable to both. Really, Ivan? It can certainly be applicable in terms of getting sound to your computer or device to make a video about role-playing games or bass guitars. And, you know, if you've been with my channel for a little while, it's not going to be rocket science to you that my videos are not exactly well produced. You know, it's something that I really have never really taken the dive into to get decent equipment and what have you. I'm usually just using a laptop or an Apple device or something to just record an extemporaneous video, sometimes with a few takes, and putting it up. But I wanted to do something a little bit different, partly because I wanted to initially started me going down this rabbit hole was I wanted to be able to record some sound clips of some bass guitar and musical type stuff that were good quality. Because otherwise I'm just using this microphone on the Apple device or whatever. Coffee, not all that good. So I got this device here. This company called Focusrite. Many of you will know what this company is. And I got this thing right here. And this is a Clarett Plus 2. So fairly decent, a little bit step up above their Scarlett line. Pretty decent preamps in here actually. It's Clarett 2 Pre, Clarett Plus, Clarett 2 Pre, Clarett Plus 2 Pre. Yeah, it's cool. It's red. And it sounds really, really good. You know, really pleasing sound off this thing. And what have you. However, one of the things that happened was I came across this video. And if I think of it, I'll put the link in the description. And the guy was talking about the idea that you could use your Apple device, like an iPhone, like I'm using right now, and you could use this Clarett, and you could hook them together and get this really cool audio quality from this thing. Use this as a microphone, instead of the one on your iPhone. And so the thing was, what you're supposed to do, which I did, is you get this little camera adapter. This is actually the Apple version. And so I think it actually takes a USB-C, and it's got a regular old USB-A that I'm plugged into right now because the other end of this is going into the Clarett via its USB-C cable. You got to remember all these letters, man. And the other side of it has a lightning adapter. And so what I can do is plug this into the iPhone, and then the audio from this Clarett is supposed to go right into that iPhone. And he made this video with a microphone and does this whole thing right in front of us. Hooray. So I figured that's cool. So I get this, I do it. And part of the order of operations that he talks about in that video is, in order to make it work, you have to have this all set up on the Clarett, ready to go. And then you open your iPhone, you open the camera app on your iPhone, you get it to the video part of the camera app, and then and only then do you plug this in, and then you hit record, and you can start your video. And if you mess that up in any way, if the video closes for some reason, then you're not going to get any sound anymore. So it's every time something happens like that, you've got to unplug it, plug it back in, close the app, open it back up. Okay, whatever. That's worth it to me, I was thinking, because that way I don't have to do something more professional. And say use whatever camera that I don't have, use this to capture. Here's this little bad boy to capture the audio, record it to my computer, and put it in some kind of digital audio workstation or a DAW, and then do some video editing and doing some kind of magic to sync these things up, which I've never done, so I have no clue what the hell I'm doing. So some of you guys will talk me through this whole thing, right? I think this is great. So I go ahead, I do all this, and the sound only comes out of one side. And I've got an input, I've got a bass guitar plugged into input number 1 on this thing. It's only coming out the left side. What I wanted to be able to do was plug into the this with a microphone and with a bass guitar, so I can talk to the nice people and say, hey, I think this bass guitar is cool because of whatever. And then play the bass guitar. It's also would be really cool to be able to make a video about role-playing games or whatever, and have a decent mic plugged in this thing and have it come out both channels of your headphones or your speakers or whatever. It was only getting out of one. So I was like, geez, what's up with that? And so I wasn't getting a lot of information about that in the beginning. And then, and I'm trying all these different routing options, and I'll get to that in a moment. And finally, I find somewhere on the internet that, in fact, on an Apple device, you have to go into the camera application, the settings of the camera application, and deselect stereo. Then it will take what's going into, say, channel 1 and make it a mono signal into both ears. I'm thinking, great, that's wonderful. So I tried this. It works great. Anything I'm plugging into channel 1 of this Clarett goes right into both ears or something, and that's cool. Anything I plug into channel 2, nothing. There's a whole bunch of output routing you can do in a Clarett, I forget what it's called, or Focusrite Control. There's a little application that comes with it, which you have to do on, I've got a little cheap laptop, PC laptop, or you can do it on a Mac. For some reason, you can't do it on an iPad, which is really, really, really weird. I guess they have some issues with the Focusrite gear and the iPads and iPhones talking to each other, which I found incredibly strange. Like, they're not really supporting the iPad, because iPads are ubiquitous now, especially in music. I mean, we're using these things to control PAs and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, I can't use my iPad with this thing? That's kind of screwy, to at least, But it's a pretty easy thing to control. And so you can control where the inputs go, where the outputs go, all these other things. And it's got 4 outputs here, as far as monitors and whatnot, that you can plug other speakers into, a whole bunch of different mixes. Hooray. This normally goes to your computer. And don't worry about that. That was a bang. I've probably dropped something I want to show you. And, so you can set that up. I'm getting nothing out of channel 2. Constantly getting great sound out of channel 1. And so I actually went onto a Clarett forum on Facebook, and I finally get this guy, Ben Davis, to answer me. And he's kind of scratching his head for a little while, too, and finally says, hey, you know what? You're going USB to USB with this thing. This thing's coming out of the back of the Clarett USB. And nothing in Focusrite Control is going to control where those signals go. So in that case, signal 1 is always going to follow a certain path, which is just going to be to the left, and channel 2 is always going to follow another path, which is to the right, because they're going to be discrete channels going into your digital audio workstation, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, geez, that's really weird. They won't give you the option to control that. But then again, it's not made to plug into an Apple device. That's not exactly their primary thing that they're doing with this. But, okay, great. So that's not going to work. So he said what you could do is maybe try something where you're, and I don't know exactly what he was talking about, like, which adapter. But he said you take, route everything to one of these outputs, one of these 4 outputs in the back, like output 1, which, is either a TS or a TRS plug, quarter-inch plug. And that way you should be able to get it, route channel 1 and channel 2 to that. Plug that in there with something like this, and then plug the other end. I've got a little mini. This is a TRS cable that's stereo, quarter-inch to stereo mini, I think 1/8 inch. And I've got this little sucker here, which takes 1/8 inch and turns it into a lightning adapter. And I use this actually I can plug this into the aux return of my, like one of my Mesa Boogie heads, and then plug this into my iPhone and open up Spotify or YouTube or, Apple Music, and practice along songs that I need to learn, all that kind of stuff. That's what I normally use this for. So I had this. I'm not sure if there was another thing he was talking about, but it's pretty much the idea. I've been taking what's coming out of the back of the Clarett, putting it into the Lightning. Cool. Maybe that'll work. No matter how I route these things, these 4 outputs, only whatever's plugged into input 2 of the Clarett actually gets to the iPhone. It'll come in blazing stereo with a thing in mono. And if I turn this, the Apple iPhone, the settings on the camera back to stereo, then with 2 different, things, no matter how I plug it in, with my guitar in one, my bass guitar, and my voice in another, they come out as separate channels. So what I've got to do, finally, I'm getting to a point of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to use this? Still trying to do this simply. Boy, this is a long video. Is I'm going to have to plug into channel 1 of this Clarett, or maybe use something like a P-split, a little P-split, which is great. Take whatever signal I'm using and split it into 2 different signals. But I'm probably just going to into channel 1 and 2 to give them the same signal. I'm probably just going to make the iPhone mono and plug into channel 1 or input 1 of the Clarett and give it that. But how am I going to get both voice and guitar to go in the same time? Well, glad you asked. Got a couple different options, but I've got this little dual, and these are amp switchers, and technically what they're supposed to do is take your bass guitar, you plug it into here, and you can switch it between, in this case, it's 2 amps and a tuner. It can really be 3 amps. But one of the neat things about these is they can work backwards. They're not unidirectional, so you can plug 2 inputs into these things, and then plug what would normally be your guitar would be going into as a feed, I can plug that, take this, and plug this right into the input of the Clarett. And that way, I'm not going to make these light up because it's not plugged in. So if I press A, I tried this, I can make the guitar, come through. And if I press B, I can make the voice come through. And I can set it up so they can both be on at the same time, or I can switch them on and off. So that way, I believe what I'm going to end up doing is always have the guitar on and then punching in the voice in and out so I can say something. And then having it out of the mix so it's not bleeding in extra room noise and all that kind of stuff. The other thing I could use, but I want to use it to audition several guitars at once, this is a nice little 3-at-1, which allows you to take 3 inputs, like 3 guitars, and plug them right into one amplifier. The reason I didn't use this is because I want to be able to grab a few instruments off the wall and just switch between them quickly. So yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do in order to get stereo or a mono signal in both ears if I want to make quick, down and dirty videos with the iPhone, with the Clarett Plus 2, which, it would be the same thing if I had a Scarlett or whatever, any of the Focusrite units. It's all going to do that. I'm still going to have to use this little camera adapter, which was, cool. I can use this for a couple other things as well. But I'm going to have to plug a bunch of stuff in differently. How am I going to plug a microphone to this? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm actually going to have to plug it into this little Yorkville mixer back here, bring it up to line level because it's got an XLR input, and the Clarett. Well, actually, the Clarett does. But the thing is, I need to amplify it a little bit more because I need to go into this. This doesn't have XLR inputs, so I need to amplify it enough. Send a line signal to this, pretending it's another guitar, and do it that way. It's a little convoluted, if you held in here, you've learned like some of the stuff about these, the Apple to Clarett interface that aren't really covered anywhere else. Like I really had to dig and find this stuff. Couldn't find a video that talks about this problem, but I did find things on some Reddits and whatnot where people are like, hey, I watched this video and can't make this work. I didn't see any answers. Honestly, Ben Davis, gave me the best answer. Like, hey, I think this is why this is happening, which is really cool. So thanks, Ben. All right, long video. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's how you do it. At least that's how I'm going to do it.